Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining me here today. And I'm very excited to be here. Also, I might admit I'm just a little bit nervous. It's been over a year since I hit the stage at an event like this. And there was a good reason for that. As somebody told me, you were preparing the content. And basically, this is what I'm going to share with you today. We're going to dive into the deep waters of Agile transformation and everything that comes with it. But not only that, we will also explore what it takes to not just stay afloat when you are caught in this kind of whirlpool of change, of unexpected change, yeah? But not only that, you would also want to get to your destination, no matter what. So we'll see. A few things about me. I've been in IT for over 10 years now, wearing different hats, mostly those of business analyst and project manager. And currently, I'm with one of the largest banks globally. And for the past 2 years, I've been doing a dual job of product owner and project manager during the very challenging time for product and team. So yeah, honestly, I wish somebody gave me this talk 2 years ago. Yeah, but anyway. So before we begin, I'd like to make a really short disclaimer, right? So everything I will say today is based on my personal experience, right? And this is definitely a subject to bias. And I'm not speaking on anybody's behalf, yeah? Those are only like my opinions. And your own experience, if or when you are ever caught in a situation like mine, right, it might be different. And in fact, I hope for it to be different, because that would mean that you won't be making my mistakes, right? So the second thing to keep in mind is that I'm going to simplify things a lot. And trust me, you don't need really to know every little detail of my two-year journey, but still, last but not least is that there is no right choice sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it's just the list of the worst, and also no one-size-fits-all solution. So the models that we will touch upon today are not the ready-to-use recipes or like checklists by any means that you could just take and apply in whatever situation. I would encourage you to look at this more like at the insights that I learned the hard way, gained the hard way, and if they resonate with you, that would be great. If they don't, that's okay, but still I hope that they will at least give you something to reflect on. So with that, we'll dive in, and the story starts with me joining my current company 4 years back. So I joined the team of 20 brilliant, talented people, developers, QAs, analysts, led by project manager and product owner, both also very experienced and, incredible people. So we were working on a product that what was already quite mature to that time. It was 5 years into production, and then I was joining as a senior business analyst. So fast forward to 1 year later, when the entire team decided to relocate to Berlin, myself included. So a quick question, please raise your hands, those of you who have ever moved for work purposes. All right. Okay, I see some hands here, and so those of you who have not, probably you know somebody who did that, I would assume. And for those who were relocating for work, you definitely could find yourself somewhere at some point on this curve. And this is where I've been through this curve, and also half of my team. And you know from experience that it's not just about packing your stuff there and unpacking in another place. It's also mostly about adjusting to the new environment. And this model is called a settlement curve by by Sverre Lisgard, an Norwegian sociologist. So he basically tells us that when relocating, we move through phases, like psychological, mental phases, where we are at first very excited about the new place, and then we inevitably hit this pitfall of frustration and basically facing the reality. It gets better over time, but trust me, like when you are in this low point at the graph, the last thing you want to do is actually to get hit by yet another major change at your workplace environment. But like with navigation, like with maritime, you see, you don't always choose what the sea has prepared for you. And to illustrate what happened with our team, I'd like to introduce first this scarf model. Probably you know about it, like it's kind of popular one. But for those of you who don't know it, it's a model that basically tells you that there are 5 ways how you can either sparkle or kill the motivation and productivity for your employees, right? So the scarf model offers us 5 aspects in which people can basically be either threatened or rewarded, and as a result, it would shape their social experience. As a consequence, it would definitely affect their performance and their own productivity, right? So the aspects themselves, I would say they're more or less self-explanatory. If you would like to dive even deeper, there's plenty of material on that. I'd like to, actually apply this model right now, because I really like it since it gives you the tool to navigate and to assess the situation. Like when you're entering crisis, when you're entering some unexpected change, this is what you want to use. So the first wave was relatively chill. It started with a simple news from our leadership that told us, okay, the entire team will be moved to another department. So no details yet, just a destination on the map. And when you are in a global, really huge organization, that could mean just anything, Because, like, let's just say some ports are thriving, trading hubs, and others, well, not very much so. So you never know. And it was like very much uncertain with possible like promotions, career development, and so forth. You would never know. So no surprise that this definitely had a negative influence on the feeling of certainty and relatedness for the team. Also, we had to switch our support team that we were working side to side to, like we were introduced with the new team. And again, you never know what will be like on the other shore, on the other side. So the next thing was the next wave. And we realized that the product that we were working very hard on for the past 5 years, and by that time 7 years, will be merged with another one. And we already heard today, and like it's a well-known fact, I would say, that for the global good, right, and for the benefit of architecture, we really want to do such things sometimes. And this decision also, as good as it was, yes, strategically wise and product wise and architecture wise, still, if we consider the emotional aspect, you could tell that it definitely could bring the team feel a bit downgraded simply because, they were not an independent product anymore, but rather than that, only a part of a larger ecosystem. So it created this kind of conflict of interest. And then, also it meant that we would have to care about more stricter architectural guidelines. And last but not least, people started questioning how fair was this decision. Like, wasn't our product good enough to actually become the flagman, become the product that will, be the strategic one, that will expand, that will evolve and actually like take over more and more business domains, like why not? It was, trust me, it was generic enough. And then, yeah, people were wondering why such decision. Now, I'm not saying it was all bad, yeah, because being a part of such initiative makes you feel good to an extent. Also, when you join another department, then with time you kind of build this relationship anyway. Yeah, time passes, you get to know people, you get to work together, and you regain this sense of relatedness. And then for fairness too, right? It was also not that bad. Like, after all, we realized that, okay, the product was not, it was not that bad. It was good enough not to get decommissioned like many others. But instead, it actually became one of the hard. I would say one of them was hard, and the other was the soul, the two merging project, for something new and big coming. The problem is that all these advantages were more like a promised land at the horizon, right? It's somewhere over there. Yeah, you cannot still see those benefits. You know they are there. And then, as if it was not enough, the other wave hit with the Agile transformation. It could mean anything. For us, it meant the redistribution of responsibilities. So I would give you just one example. So imagine you were working alongside your peers, let's say, and I remind you, there were 20 of us, so quite many developers, quite many of QAs and so forth. So imagine you were playing a role like this contributing manager, or like you were a contributor, but due to your experience and expertise, you kind of taken on the leadership role. And that happens actually a lot of times. Yeah, people first start taking on leading activities, and only then they suppose get promoted or get the formal roles assigned to them, especially in large companies when the process can take the entire year cycle. So imagine how big your frustration would be if at some point you realize that, okay, the Agile transformation is coming, and there would be so-called chapter leads, and you're not one of them. And then, instead of being like promoted, you would be also reporting all of you to the same new manager you know nothing about, right? So normally it would be different, like if you know the person and if you know that they are worthy, but yeah, can be challenging. At last, the highest wave came, and both product manager and product owner, they disappeared, leaving the two-level management gap. So here I would like to say that it was a different impact for myself and for the team. Because, well, if I'm being honest, I saw this definitely as an opportunity, right? Not only an opportunity, but also my holy duty, like to step up, yes, step in and kind of keep driving this ship and protect my team as well. But for the team, it was not so bright, because it would only add to overall feeling of uncertainty, and you see where this is going. So I think right now it's a good moment to reiterate that I'm not speaking on anyone's behalf here, right? And I'm only sharing my observation and conclusions. But I think it's still important, because our personal observations and the way how we perceive things, they actually affect our decision-making, also when you are like in leading positions. And as a consequence, it has some impact on the team and the delivery. Anyway, at that point in time, the situation felt pretty much like this. And suddenly I found myself at the steering wheel on a ship, more or less in this position. So, and when the waves start rolling in, the worst thing you could do is like to freeze at the helm, is the worst thing. So instead, what I really tried to do is focus on keeping the momentum going. It means that I really wanted the deliveries to be on track. I really wanted, like as a stepping in project manager and product owner, I really was invested in fulfilling our roadmap that we had for the rest of the year. So here are the things that helped me with that. I was focusing on, first of all, doing minimal invasion changes. And what I mean by that is you know the story by now. Yeah, you can, I think you can evaluate a bit how much stress and how much change the team has seen in the short period of time. And like these so-called waves that we've just seen, they were coming in less than 1 month period of time. Yeah, so only you get adjusted to one situation and then you get with some new good news. So in terms of processes and approaches, at least at the very beginning, even if I saw like, okay, there's a big room for improvement here and there, I tried to not to like change everything at once and also to keep it steady for the team. Now, it's hard to overestimate the power of communication, yeah, and I won't be, wasting too much of your time on that. We have a lot of resources to talk about this, but what I really would like to highlight here is actually that, the less you assume, the better. And if you have to choose, just over-communicate. Keep it transparent, yes, and maybe one last thing. Don't be too self-focused, because it's not only you who could assume things, right? You would be, in such situations, you would be used to some certain ways of working. And then you meet other teams, other domains, like they come from completely different world, and the bigger organization is, the more drastic could be those differences. I'm not saying one approach is better than the other, but they are different. So don't assume things, and also keep in mind that sometimes people can assume things, and to prevent that, better over-communicate. Last but not least, and actually most important one, to prioritize the psychological safety. So we need to keep in mind that when the horizon gets foggy, sometimes you need not just a compass, but also a lighthouse. I would be lying if I said it was easy. So this is literally me, 1 month into the new role. And so I think I never posted this anywhere. Also, I didn't show it to anybody. So actually, you are the first people to see this very photo. And I'd like to give you some context. Like 1 month into the role, I randomly walked into one of the meeting rooms we had, and I see this nice picture somebody drew on the whiteboard. It resonated with me so much, so I decided to take a selfie with it, right? And also it gave me the hint that something was in the air. Maybe it's not just me who was overwhelmed by things. So at that time, I didn't yet have the words for what was happening, and I only saw team reacting in all different ways. If by that time I had this knowledge of the stages of acceptance that people would be going through, it would be much easier for me to understand both their reactions and my reactions, And also, this curve is known by the name of 5 stages of grief, but surprisingly enough, it's actually very widely used in organizational change. So maybe there is something in common, And you might be wondering, why is that important? Because, it's very personal, it's very individual, and we all know how to manage it. Like, I believe some of you, or maybe all of you, have your own teammates, like your subordinates, and you have all those one-on-ones, and you know how to, manage people. But the thing is that when you have 20 people going through these stages on more or less the same pace, simultaneously, it would definitely affect the delivery, it would definitely affect the overall team performance. So if you can't stop the waves, what you want to do is to adjust the sails and to do something about it. So you can either try and address it, accept it, or leave. With addressing, it's quite easy, You want to do it as you're going through this denial, anger stages, in the bargaining, perfect timing, Then for acceptance is maybe a way when you would want to reframe the things. You could try and shift your angle. And this is exactly what we already did today, with this scarf model, when we thought, okay, but what is the possible positive effect of that, right? And then you come to the terms of the changes you're facing. And then obviously you could leave. That's also a completely valid choice. I saw people doing that. Yeah, I'm not saying what were the reasons. Yeah, because not speaking on anyone's behalf, but the timing. I mean, if there was any good timing for leaving, yeah, the team, we would know that. Right. So if you want to go with addressing, this actually one more model that might help you. It's called radical candor, and it was presented by Kim Scott. So ultimately, it says that there is a way to influence people, and there's a way to negotiate with them in most efficient way. So if at any point in your work life you found yourself wondering, okay, I'm so good with my soft skills, but why am I having a hard time, negotiating with somebody or persuading somebody, like with my point of view or something? Then, when you try to address the change, you need to start talking to different people, to your teammates, your peers, your senior manager, your subordinates, to anybody. And in all these situations, in all these kind of conversations, what you really want to do is to keep this gold balance between personally caring, not about the subject, about the person you're talking to. This is extremely important. Also, you don't want to be shy away from challenging them directly. And trust me, it really looks easier than it is on practice. Because over the past 2 years, I saw all kinds of behaviors, of people's behaviors. I demonstrated myself, not just the golden rule, but actually my favorite would be, I would guess, not the favorite, but unfortunately the most often one would be the top left quadrant, probably. Yeah, because like when you care too much about the people and you're not, not in a place to challenge them for any reason, you hesitating, let's say, for any reason, then you would inevitably end up in this quadrant and definitely wouldn't give you much change. And then, of course, when you are so blunt, when you are don't afraid to challenge folks, but you don't really care about your opponent, and it doesn't matter if it's your teammate or if it's a junior developer or if it's like a tribe lead, it doesn't matter. If you don't care about the person, it will definitely create a conflict. So I observed all this kind of behavior, and you can take it from me, you can take it from Kim Scott. Yeah, there's this way that works best, and I would highly recommend to, sometimes align and adjust and check where you are in this change. Now, what's with the ruinous empathy? So in 2019, there was a study, an actual scientific study, that revealed that there is a dependency between the empathy level of a CEO and their ability to act effectively right before the crisis and during the crisis. And what's interesting is, well, personally, I believe that it can be applied not only to CEOs, but to managers of all kinds, to leaders of all kinds, actually, because when you are in leading position, you have some sort of responsibility with you, and also you are in a place to make decisions, and your ability to be good at decision-making impacts the team directly, and as a consequence, it impacts the delivery directly. And then it influences the overall performance of the company sooner or later. So yeah, the chart is that simple, right? There's an optimal way of empathy that you might want to reach. With the high level of empathy, it's reported that CEOs or leaders would be better at spotting crisis at the early stage. Yeah, they would see some signs. They would talk to people. Yeah, and then the problem is that after this, golden point, the more empathetic you are, it doesn't bring you any good, and surprisingly, even quite the opposite. Yeah, that's because being in between of massive change, also being in a place of a big uncertainty, can lead you to making some tough decisions, or it can lead you to observing some tough decisions being made not directly, around you, but somewhere next to you, relevant to you somehow. And those decisions are tough. Situations can be tough. And like if you are too empathetic, at the end of the day, it doesn't bring the good. So now, let's assume that you do everything by the book. You now know all the rules. By the way, by this point in time, you already knew more than I did, like when I was stepped into the role. Now, assume you do all by the book, but it still somehow doesn't work. How could that be? You know everything about communication. You know theoretical candor. You've done your assessment with SCARF model and plenty of other models. Today there was so much spoken about them. Now, for me personally, was the most interesting equation of success that I found. I didn't invent it, for better or worse. I found it. Maybe I want to show it to you. So the equation of success, but also the equation of trust. And I believe that no matter how good you are and how transparent you are in your communications, how often you are, and doesn't matter if your meetings are bi-weekly or weekly, if people do not trust you, then it's useless. So what is it about, right? So credibility, as you might have guessed, right? It's mainly rational criteria that tells us that, okay, I trust that you have the knowledge of what you're talking about. I trust in your expertise. I trust that you a subject matter expert, or you have relevant experience at least. So the reliability would be, pretty obvious, sticking to your word. Do not overpromise, but also do not underpromise. Try to balance it out. Again, like many things in this presentation, it's easier said than done. But at least it's easier when you know the patterns and you can try and apply them. So then the next component would be the emotional safety. This is when I trust you that what I tell you won't slip away. I trust you that you won't use it against me. I trust you basically with my emotional comfort. And then the last one would be self-orientation. And if we recall now the radical candor model, it would be the opposite of care. Okay? Self-orientation is basically how self-absorbed we are and self-consumed. So the less self-orientation you have, the more you're the person you are talking to, regardless of their title or regardless of their motives, would trust that you actually care not only about them, but also about the subject. So quick question, which one do you think is confirmed to be the most important one? There is only one. You can guess. Just tell me. Safety. I hear safety. Any other? Reliability. Okay, I won't be torturing you too much because we don't have too much time for torture. And this is actually the answer. Can come up as surprising and not so obvious, right? So the most impactful criteria here turned out to be the self-orientation. It's also emotional. And it's funny how the rational criteria, those are that easy to measure, and easy to follow. They are rational because, it's easier to formalize them. It's easy to, have this bullet list and follow through it. For emotional, you need all those plethora of tools. You need to be very self-aware, but not too empathetic, right? And to balance out somewhere there. Now, we are getting towards the end of this session. So there are some points that I'd like you to take away with you from this talk. So first of all, as you now know from my experience and my 2-year episode of career, you don't always know what lies ahead of you. And there are things that you can influence and there are things which you cannot influence, at least just yet. Maybe later, who knows, yeah? But in any case, do not freeze and do not just drift. Try to address it, try to use the knowledge that you have, try to reach out for mentoring, or pro tip, if you have a chance to take cultural training, also do it. Help me at some point. Now, we've been there, like adjust the sails and not the wind. Sometimes it's easier to control what you actually can control. The uncertainty will be there. And in the very beginning of this talk, we saw how much damage it can bring when there's a lot of uncertainty, and basically feeling safe and certain is one of the base, requests or requirements of a person as a human being. But with the change, with the agile and agility, uncertainty will always be there, and that's okay. And the more uncertainty you have, the more important it becomes to have the high level of trust. This is how it all comes together, and this is how you don't want to miss a single thing out of it. Luckily, we have the equation and all other models to help you. If you'd like some homework, I encourage you to apply these models, how we just did. Probably you can check on the SCARF model and identify how some news could affect you or your team based on that model, or assess your approach and see where you are at the radical condor compass, right? In different situations, you might surprisingly find yourself at different parts of it. And that's okay, because it gives you the assessment and it gives you the starting point. Now, 4 thoughts may be too much. Let's cut it down to 1. Okay, if there's only 1 thought that I'd like you to take away with you from this session, it would be this one. So don't be afraid. Calm seas, they don't make skilled sailors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there are some questions. Did the Omni crisis unite the team or isolate everyone to focus on their problems?
That's a good question. So if we speak about the original team that this story revolves on, I would say that it's worked towards more to uniting the team, because, again, we were in the different environment, right? And in such situations, it's only natural to look for something familiar, yeah? And, well, from my end, I try to do my best to give this sense of stability and steadiness among this rapidly changing environment.
Thank you. Here's another one. Sometimes a team member should leave for the better of the team or company, but doesn't realize it on their own. How would you address that? That's an awful question.
I really like this question. I like to answer it off the camera.
We'll take it later.
Yes.
Right. So you described the waves rolling in. How much support did you have from the people making these decisions?
Thank you for the question. So I certainly did the certain level of support. And let me maybe not to give any assessments to this level of support, but there might be one more insight that I'd like to share with you. Yeah, I didn't make it to the final version of the presentation, but I'm really glad that you asked. So for the level of support, remember when I mentioned that when we were some kind of in the midst of this storm, my natural inclination, my natural wish was to step in, to drive this further, but also to protect the team. I would already reference to those people as to protect my team already, this sense of responsibility. And you see, in this fight for protection, I also watched very, very closely for them not to, let's say, get any additional workload, for instance. They already had enough on their plate. We had the full roadmap, everything, such and such and such. And yeah, when you're so protective, sometimes it can lead to missed opportunities, okay? So I'm not saying, I was building a wall between my team and the rest of the tribe. What I'm saying is that eventually you should be more open, and maybe even if people are cautious about taking these new opportunities within the new environment, instead of just asking them, do you want to do it? Yes, no, and roll with it, yeah? Instead, you try to sell them the idea, and to be able to sell them this idea of, and sell this opportunity for development, you first should see it yourself. So, yeah, probably you don't want to be too protective, especially in the cases when you have an opportunity to pause a bit and reflect. Maybe the protection and support actually is required towards yourself. Basically, maybe it's you who needs support.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a nice segue to the next question. What helped you to reduce your self-orientation at this situation?
I think building the bond and the process helped me, really. Building the bond and connection with people, also talking to them, also listening to them. And also it came kind of naturally, because when you, okay, let me speak for myself, right? When I get resentful, for instance, when I spot, okay, I'm not happy about what's going on or what's the person saying, I always try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I always try to, before I react impulsively, to stop and think, what might be their motivation? Because I truly believe in one thing, that in our core, in our heart, all people are good. There are no bad people. Okay, I'm oversimplifying it right now. It can be argued, but if we don't taking it to the extreme, right? It can apply. It can work. So there are low chances that you would be surrounded by all kind of Warcraft monsters, right? At the same time. So yeah, this is the kind of behavior that I would very much appreciate towards myself. Like if somebody, like a peer or a manager, is not happy about my results or about what I'm saying, I would really very much appreciate for them to try and be curious about where I'm coming from. And because I would like this behavior towards myself, this is basically what I try to apply myself. That easy.
Yeah, I think we only have time for one question. There are a few more questions here that you can come and ask afterwards. How did you encourage radical candor in your team?
Okay, that's a good question. So first of all, that would be a hypothetical question, because at the time, when it was the most critical during the story, I had no idea about the radical candor, let alone how to use it. So now, with this knowledge, I can only think of it together and brainstorm it together with you, right? So let's say, by example. First of all, by example. And again, it depends on what part of radical candor your peer is struggling with. Because, we have some people who are, like I said, they are not afraid to challenge others, but sometimes they can come out as obnoxious. Or you might have people around you who would be, whining a lot about something they're not happy with, but only, only telling this to you, making you their own therapist of a kind, yeah, but not ever address it with the actual source of problem by different reasons. So what I would do is I would want to explore why would they choose the path they're choosing right now, and I would just give them options, okay? By now, I wouldn't by any means try to pursue somebody, do something they don't want. Because apart from fighting or apart from addressing and always trying to change something, yeah, there are also other options. So don't let you to get to the burnout.
And with that, let us thank Polina again.
Thank you.